Good morning. Welcome to day 3 of the Toronto International Film Festival. Are you all awake? If not, you will be soon. You'll be awakened by the sound of metal. To begin, we would like to acknowledge that today's event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community. My name is Andrea Picard, and I'm the co-curator of the Platform section. I curate this section with Cameron Bailey, the artistic director. And Platform is TIFF's competition. And this year we have 10 films vying for the Platform Prize, including this one. And this section was created by Cameron 5 years ago to really bolster bold, artistic, and personal voices in international cinema. And this film exemplifies all of those things. We saw it earlier this summer and we're completely blown away by it. It is a remarkable film on many levels in both form and content, and you will soon discover that. This film, as I said, is eligible for the Platform Prize, and it is also eligible for the Grosch People's Choice Award. You vote for your favorite films at tiff.net/vote. We would like to thank Creative Artists Agency, CAA, and Protagonist Pictures for providing us with this film. Darius Marder, the director of the film, is an American director, screenwriter, and editor. He has directed the feature documentary Loot, and he co-wrote the screenplay for the festival selection, which many of you have probably seen, The Place Beyond the Pines by Derek Cianfrance. The Sound of Metal is his latest film, and it's his first fictional feature, and what an astonishing film it is. It has staggering performances and an emotional complexity rare in cinema. It also uses the language of cinema to create something utterly singular and remarkable in its depiction of a musician navigating his hearing loss and having to readjust to the world. And we are so pleased to have Darius Marder with us this morning. Please welcome him.
Hey guys, good morning. I'm really impressed that you're all here. It's amazing. That's an incredible testament. So I love the population of this city that is such film lovers, and it's an incredible honor, especially a morning screening. It's awesome. Thanks so much, Andrea. And these guys have been so wonderful to me and this movie, and I'm incredibly honored to be here. I will just say that I won't talk much at all, actually. I think it's best to just watch the movie, and I'll be back afterwards, and we can talk for anyone who wants to. This film is captioned, and I just want to mention that it's captioned, not just subtitled. And that's a little unusual, and the idea really is to bring together both the hearing culture and the non-hearing culture, or the deaf culture, into one singular experience. So we all experience the same movie, maybe in different ways, but we all watch the same movie together. So I'm really excited about that. And I look forward to hearing how it felt for you guys. But thanks so much for being here, and thanks, Andrea.
Thank you. That work?
Should I introduce those guys right off?
Yeah, Darius brought many people with him today, and we're really pleased that they are here. So Darius, if you could please introduce your team.
Thanks for staying, guys. It's my pleasure to introduce Riz Ahmed, Olivia Cooke. Guys, come on. Chelsea Lee. Paul Racy. Domenico Toledo.
Fantastic. Darius, thank you for this beautiful film. And as I mentioned earlier, it is such a remarkable achievement for a first feature. And you had mentioned that it took a long time to make. So I would like to ask you where it came from within you. What sparked your interest in the subject matter? Do you have a relationship with the deaf community or a musician community?
Well, some of the reasons I was making it actually occurred to me later, or many years later, actually. I think that's the wonderful and magical part of writing, is that you don't always know why you're writing something, hopefully. I think it's like the entire creative process. You hope you discover something. If you're in control the whole time, it's pretty lame. But actually, this project started with a dear friend of mine, Cianfrance, many, many years ago. And that was the seed of it. But I couldn't let go of this idea of cinema as represented in sound, in 3 acts, and the psyche and being within. That just cinematically was impossible for me to let go of. I couldn't, and that's what I was introduced to a long time ago. But the deaf aspect of it, which was always present, had a strange and interesting inspiration. My grandmother, who the film is dedicated to, my aunt yesterday told me that I'm not allowed to call her grandmother because she didn't like to be called grandmother. So I'm going to rephrase that and say that the mother of my father was a lesbian Jew living in New York, an orphan, an incredibly intelligent woman, a cinephile, and she went deaf after taking an antibiotic, and found herself between 2 cultures, neither part of the deaf community or the hearing community, and she lost access to music, which crushed her, and she lost access to film, which crushed her, and she spent the rest of her life petitioning to get films captioned, and it's such a bizarre and wonderful element, and to be able to dedicate this to her, that gave me a kind of a connection to the deaf community that's very special and was with me in ways that are surprising. She's very much in this character, actually, and very much all over the movie in ways that are surprising even to me.
And I'd like to ask about Riz's character, who is a musician, and you're a musician in real life, a very different kind. But I'm wondering, did you write these parts with anyone particular in mind?
Well, I didn't write it with Riz in mind only because I didn't know you existed. And had I known that...
that makes it a lot better. Yeah, thanks. That's better, yeah.
That felt right. That felt good, right? And it wasn't my fault. If I had known that, I absolutely would have written it with you in mind. I had really interesting inspirations for the thing that changed over many years in a gazillion drafts. I usually do write with very specific people in mind. It's not amorphous, and it would shift as the character and the story shifted. And there's a kind of a wonderful journey that my brother Abraham and I took when we were writing. That we would use various inspirations. Yeah, but it was very special when Riz came to it because he filled the character with something very unexpected, which was just utterly true. The truth of it was apparent to me immediately, but it breathed something else into the character that really excited me.
And I'd like to ask about the involvement of the deaf community in making the film as well.
Well, that's it was an incredible journey being connected to the deaf community, which went on for years. In my research, I spent time with the deaf community, but especially as we geared up. Riz moved to Brooklyn to prep this movie over the course of many, many, many months. And immersed himself in the study of ASL. We did some of that together. I'm just not smart, so I can't learn it like he can because he has a weird brain. But the deaf community really welcomed us in a way that was profound. So we became very close, and especially Riz. One day I actually went to get coffee in Brooklyn. And I was thinking about the film, and I went to get a cup of coffee, and I looked to my right, and Riz is sitting with his sign teacher, Jeremy, And I just watched them. I have a wonderful video of it. I just watched them signing for a while, and I thought, man, that is dedication. This guy had completely immersed. You know how hard it is to sign, because it takes a while. It makes your brain hurt at first, you know. And this guy got to a place of the beginning of fluency, which is extraordinary, because it's a mind-body connection that is very admirable. So I literally watched with tears in my eyes seeing this guy that immersed with the community with that kind of dedication. I think it's really, really rare.
I also
So
love...
I'm just wondering if, Chelsea, you wanted to say anything about the involvement of the deaf community and in the process of...
Definitely. I actually don't need the microphone. Yeah, everybody involved in the team, Darius obviously, and just to take into consideration our thoughts, our culture, and it was ongoing. It wasn't just a quick consult. It was ongoing the entire way. The discussions were so enriching, and he completely took our feedback in. And we're still talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. We're learning about our community, and we just can't thank you enough for including us. It was very much appreciated.
Chelsea kicked my ass. She kicked my ass regularly. You were constantly. She was, but it was a learning process. It really is amazing to what it asks of the hearing world to kind of get out of our normal, comfortable mode of existence and enter into something that is, for me, so beautiful. I know for you as well, the experience of you can't have a conversation with a deaf person and also be looking at your phone. You can't do it. And the deaf communication is so physical, and we're not used to being physical, at least in the culture that I know. And it's also emotional. And it's so extraordinary, because what I actually found is that deaf people listen more than hearing people, because they listen. Because they're engaged. You have to be engaged. And I, as a hearing person, I was constantly reminded of how disengaged we are so much of the time.
Yes, question right here.
Yes, so I wanted to ask about Ruben's character a little bit, as we learn in the film that 4 years ago he had some addiction problems. There's a few smoking scenes, whatever. And now he's faced with this new challenge of having to come to terms throughout the whole film with the silence around him. So I wanted to ask about if you could talk to us about some potential parallels between addiction and this pursuit of sound in this case.
Maybe Riz, you'd like to talk to that.
Yeah, so addiction's a funny thing, because the source of addiction isn't the thing that you're addicted to. The source of addiction is something inside. It's often, as some people say, that kind of God-sized hole inside, that abyss, that black hole that you're trying to fill. And a lot of the time we spend our lives trying to fill this inner void with many different things. Phones that we're all addicted to, It could be intimacy, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be work. A lot of us kind of, work is a very convenient distraction from having to face the void. And so what Ruben has done is essentially kind of swapped out his heroin addiction, which he used to numb his trauma, with this codependent relationship, and his music and this identity. And I think part of what, maybe it's not the thing to put on the film poster, but this is it's a spiritual movie. You know what I mean? That would be good. Put that up against Transformers. Yeah. Spiritual deaf musical, please. But it's that idea of when you strip away all the stuff that you think defines you, when you take away all the crutches that you're using to fill that black hole, who are you? What are you? You have to face that void. You have to face that emptiness. And that's the journey that Ruben goes on. And, the silence is a profound metaphor for that emptiness inside him. And it's only when he's able to kind of sit inside that emptiness, he's able to sit with himself. So that's kind of how I saw that journey.
There's a lot of quiet addiction in the movie. You see maybe someone noticed the scars on Lou in the beginning. That's an addiction. Maybe you notice the way that the pain, actually, that Ruben feels while he's playing. That connection to pain is an addiction. And pain is often a way that we remember that we're alive. But we can get very connected to that idea that we need to be in pain in order to know that we're alive. And I think that's very connected to addiction. So those things are run throughout the film in ways that hopefully don't hit you over the head, but they're very much alive, at least for me.
I also think the film is very rich beyond the amount of time that we have to discuss all of the issues. And there is very much a liminal space, between sound and sight, and then how things are replicated sonically within the film, which I think is really remarkable as well. And this is an undercurrent that I picked up on the film, which is also about class and identity.
Absolutely.
And I was wondering if maybe Olivia could speak to your character a little bit, because one feels that tension throughout as well.
Yeah, I mean, she's stuck between two worlds. She grew up with a very wealthy, creative father until her mum and dad split up, and she was taken away back to America with her mum. And I think, we were talking about it, how it wasn't a life of riches anymore. It was, she was very mentally ill, and Lou was probably the caretaker in that relationship until she did commit suicide. So I think then in terms of the relationship with Ruben and Lou, he is taking care of her, but she's also stepping into that caretaker role as well until they're separated, and she realizes she doesn't need to be that. She doesn't need to service anyone like that anymore, just herself. If that answers your question.
We have time for one more question from the audience. So many here. Right in the middle. You?
Oh, you're curious. That's good. No, it's not. There was a version, actually, where there's a little hint at Ruben's backstory. But yeah, you really don't. There's I think there's a trail that you can follow and you can extrapolate. But I really love, I'm really excited in film by this thing that happens when we watch something and we create context. Because I think we have an incredible ability to build a world around things that feel true, and we create a wide world of context. And in this case, I think it was much greater for the fact that we don't go and explain his situation for exactly the reason you're saying, which is that he has no one to reach out to. He's alone, and he's a survivor. And that's really more exciting to me than us explaining any of it, because it feels evident to me, and yet so revelatory to see into Lou's world, which is something that you probably don't expect, and don't expect to see into the context of Lou, and that feels so revelatory to me. At the same time as holding back feels exciting to me as it relates to Ruben, because I think we see it in other ways. How about Domenico over here? Isn't that? This guy is such a professional. What do you have to say? What do you have to say?
I really enjoyed being a part of this film. People who came to help me, give me consultations on how to act were so kind and friendly with me, and they gave me everything I needed to be able to navigate this new experience, and I can't thank Darius and everybody enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's always hard with a Q&A when you have a lot of people because we don't have a lot of time, and I know, do we have a minute? We have to cut. But Paul is also incredibly special. We were absolutely blessed to be found by this man who is CODA, which represents child of deaf adults, deeply enmeshed in deaf culture. ASL was your first language, and if you have 3 words, because I'm gonna get.
I appreciate that. I would just like to leave you with this movie should make you a little bit aware of how many of us have a hearing problem. Since artillery division was brought into war in the Civil War, we've had men that come back from the war, they're deafened by these bombs. His mother's mother, or your father's mother, but from just infections and antibiotics. And captioning this movie is a big deal. And in my opinion, all movies should be captioned. It enhances the movie. Thank you.
Thanks so
Great note
much.
to
Thank
end
you
on.
so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everyone, for being here.
Thank you, guys.